So just to start off, could you just clap once into the mic?
All right.
Just clap.
I do.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. What's your name and what's your game?
Hi, my name is Pierre Tartaix. I'm brand manager on Orcs Must Die Unchained, which is the third installment in the series Orcs Must Die, developed by Robot Entertainment.
So for those who don't know, what is the Orcs Must Die franchise? What sort of game is it?
Well, that's a pretty unique concept. It's actually taking a tower defense from a very action perspective. So players roam in the game as in a third-person shooter, and they can put some traps everywhere and kill all the minions. It's pretty fun.
How would you say Orcs Must Die Unchained differs from Orcs Must Die 1 and Orcs Must Die 2?
Well, when the first Orcs Must Die was introduced, it was a solo game, so it was one player against wave of AI. Then with Orcs Must Die 2, the cooperative mode was introduced, so 2 players against AI. And now we've brought that to the next level of online multiplayer, so it's really, there's 2 modes. There's a PvE, which is very similar to the first 2 games, which is 5 players, up to 5 players against waves of AI. Or you can play PvP, 5 players versus 5 players, which is also a lot of fun.
Okay, so with the PvP, could you just explain how the siege mode works? Because you send minions and you have to fight against minions. Can you just give a rundown of that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the idea is, imagine a game of Orcs Must Die 2, or 2 of them, and then oppose one against the other. So you're facing waves of enemies being sent by other players, and at the same time you're sending your own minions to their rift. So there's really 2 dimensions to that. On the one side you're defending, like the classic Orcs Must Die gameplay that people like, and on the other side you just rush with your minions, you escort them up to the rift. And the first team that manages to put 20 minions in the rift of the enemy's team, well, basically they're winning.
Could you just talk about the player characters?
The play characters, well, we've got around like 20 heroes for the open beta. We've got different archetypes of heroes. Of course, you've got your classical DPS, tanks, healers. But we've got some very, very weird characters like Dobbin. He's kind of a dwarf. He likes the mining shaft, so he's playing this tunnel and can move around freely. And he can also throw some dynamite at people. What else do we have? We got players like Hogarth. He's kind of this huge Viking, throwing his axe at people and freezing them. It's pretty funny. And Midnight is Cat Lady, completely silent and going invisible to attack people in the back. It's also a lot of fun to play that.
And with the minions, there's a lot of variation to those. So you just give us some examples of that?
Yeah, we've got tons of minions in that game. I mean, all the minions are cards, basically, and you can craft those cards and collect those cards to make the ultimate deck to go and strike against the other players. So basically, you can have bears with helmets, you know, all sorts of orcs, big orcs, small orcs, orcs with gunpowder, orcs with grenades, and even some human enemies, archer, and so on and so forth. So there's really a lot of people, a lot of different creatures, and of course the boss minions at the end of the game. They're super, super helpful to destroy the doors and break in the rift room.
So you mentioned bosses. So on each map, there are, the PvP maps, there are different neutral objectives. So can you just talk about those? Yeah,
the neutral objective is a way for us to give some spice in a party. Like you're playing the game and then it's getting, everybody's playing defensive and it tends to linger long. And well, with the neutral objective, basically what we do is we offer players the possibility to get this one joker, like a big boss. But to do that, they have to do something completely different from the regular attack and defense. So in one of the maps, they have to conquer and control 2 objectives at the 2 ends of the map at the same time. And if they do that, they get a boss for free. In one of the other maps, they have to hunt down some kind of big lizard, Krogan, and whenever they manage to kill him, they get a stack of it, and they need to bring that to the barbecue. So that's really Orcs Must Die franchise spirit, if you want.
Yeah. So there's a lot of humour in the game, and I know the story is not the focus, but could you just explain the setting of Orcs Must Die?
Yeah, of course. So Maximilian and Gabriella, the heroes of Orcs Must Die 2, they funded the Order against the Unchained, which is basically the orcs and much more. So by the end of the game, they found some rifts that are actually portal to other dimensions and the worlds of the orcs. Since they discovered that, the Unchained discovered that as well. So you've got on one side the Unchained trying to invade the Order, and on the other side the Order trying to close all these rifts. And so you've got this kind of war going on within 2 of them. And we've got a lot to share with that in a few more weeks, because that's really something that we want to develop. I mean, the developer has been very, very interesting in putting some more cutscenes, putting some more subtle, hint at what the story will be. And we're really hoping to get more into that orientation, even though the game is multiplayer first and foremost.
In PvP, there's been a recent update with the player roles. You can be attack, pillager, or defense. So can you just explain those?
Yeah, well, we've been having a lot of back and forth based on the community feedback as to how to implement the PvP, because initially there was no role and it was a bit hectic. Everybody was doing a bit of everything. And then Robert introduced the roles, and there were defensive heroes and offensive heroes, but you didn't really have a choice, and people were not always happy, like, oh, I want to play Maximilian, but I really want to play offensive. So now it's a bit more fluid. We allow people to choose what they want to do and tell the others. So it doesn't change a lot. It's just giving you some hint at the beginning, where to go, what to do. It's changing the resources that you're getting. But, you know, after a few minutes of gameplay, if you decide, well, I really want to play defense, even though I could choose offense in the beginning, well, you still can. Obviously, it's a matter of communication with the team. That's something that we've worked a lot on as well. There's a quick setting for, you know, selecting pre-made commands or pre-made messages for your teammates. So you can say, hey, I want you to place a trap here. I want you to sell that one. I need you to defend with me. I need you to push on the right lane with me. And all of that is being made very easy for the players, especially in Europe, where we've got a lot of different languages and not everybody is talking English.
So in PvP, there's stuff that wasn't in Orcs Must Die in the previous games, like the Guardians and the barriers and the caches. Can you just explain those?
Well, the lanes are, you know, you need to defend them the way you can. So in PvP, the Guardians are already there. They're set up, and each team has to defeat the Guardians in order to pass the barricade. There's a barrier that is, you have to take that down, but your enemy team can rebuild it if you're not careful. So it's your job to come there and hassle them all the time and come back and don't let them rebuild them. Otherwise, you'll have to fight that over and over again. It's going to take a lot more time to do that. In PvE, we've used that as well, and the Guardians are placed by the players. And you've got several kind of Guardians actually, and they are being used in coordination with the map. So for instance, if you've got a kitchen in a dungeon and you put the cook in there, then you're going to have a bonus because he's going to be in his place. So it's really interesting to collect all those Guardians, and since you can only take 2 of them in one deck, you need to coordinate with your other players and your teammates to make sure that everybody's got a bit of everything, so you cover everything.
Okay, and the caches in the PvP map?
Oh yeah, the caches are a way for players to turn the tide. Basically, the way to get the currency is to escort your minions or to kill other players. But if one team is getting really, really aggressive and pushing everyone, then they might end up in this position where they're getting way more currency than the other, and then it's snowballing into a no fun game, basically. So we put the caches so that players can also scavenge around the map and destroy those caches and get some resources from there, which is allowing them to, you know, get some more resources without being hassled by the other team and say, well, you know what, we're going to lose that round of attack, so let's just focus on getting some more resources in the next wave. We're going to come back big with some new minions and, you know, basically roll them.
So with the PvE mode, the co-op mode, can you just explain that?
Well, the PvE is basically a way for us to keep the Orcs Must Die gameplay as it used to be, especially for the fans who've been, you know, not all of them have picked up on the PvP mode, which is pretty competitive when you think of it. So it's basically the regular Orcs Must Die. We've got special maps for that, where enemies can attack from different lanes. Sometimes it's very straightforward, there's a door opening, but sometimes it's, you know, way crazier, like they're coming with a boat, they're attacking a fortress. So you got all those orcs coming from every side, and people really have to split to make the best defense possible, because even with 5 players, it's not going to be enough to cover everywhere, so you have to move constantly to use the tunnel, to use the teleport, and really cover your map. It's a crazy step considering where the game was in Orcs Must Die 2.
Okay, so in Orcs Must Die 1 and 2, there were environmental traps, so there'd be barrels on the map and stuff like that. What sort of things are in Orcs Must Die Unchained?
Yeah, we still have a lot of that. We still have this kind of barrel dispenser. Yeah. You shoot at them, and there's an explosive barrel rolling down up to the orcs. We've got a lot of like fusing metal infusion, and a huge Q that you can throw to the enemies in the fortress. And basically, there's a lot of them, and you can also use your pushing traps to put them in the environment. Like there's a map called Shark Island, so it's above a sea of sharks, so if you manage to push the enemies down to the sea, they're getting eaten by the sharks. So there's a lot you can do. You don't have to kill the enemies down to their last bit of life point. You can actually use the environment to help you. It's super fun.
So you mentioned the physics traps. They're not in PvP. Can you just talk about why?
Well, we really wanted the PvP to be as balanced as possible, and considering the way the maps are created, it could be very unbalanced if some team can use the physical traps because that's the way the other team choose to push their minions, and if the other one is using a different way, for instance, then they don't have the physical traps against them, so that would be a bit uneven. That's why.
Can you tell us about the endless survival as well and how it differs from normal survival modes?
Well, as the name says, it's just you get an endless wave, so you get minions as long as you survive that. So that allows for a cool competition on a worldwide level where every player and group of players can play as long as they can and score the highest score and be in the leaderboard. So hopefully people are going to take on that and try to score more than the neighbors.
And have you seen people like get proper competitive teams together? Is it like come in as a sort of esports sort of thing, or is everyone kind of casual about it, do you think?
Well, I mean, the PvP mode has had, so many changes. It's been very hard for a lot of teams to keep a level of competition that, allows them to go esport. We really like the players to embrace that mode as well and start to building that. But I think that's something that has to come from the community. We can't force esports on the player. That's really something that has to come from them. The game is very fun, but it's still, we aim at having something very balanced and something that can allow this kind of gameplay. We've heard some interest from, leagues like the ESL or the likes, so I'm all interested for this kind of gameplay, but we need to see how the community reacts and how perfectly polished the game is.
So it's a free-to-play game, so can you just talk about your free-to-play business model?
Yeah, well, the game is a free-to-play, but basically everything, with the notable exception of the skins, so cosmetic only, everything is creatable in the game. You can craft them by looting resources from the game. So while you're playing the game, minions are going to randomly drop some resources and you can catch that, and after the game you can create the cards you want. Every now and then you will level up and get a chest. From that chest you get several resources as well, so there's a lot of ways to get those resources and craft the right card or the right, getting the right minions or getting the right items for the game. Obviously we also got a pay shop in the game, and you can buy skins or buy different chests if you want to foster that, but I think the business model is pretty permissive and you can have a lot of fun by just playing the game.
Okay, so it's in open beta at the moment, so when is the actual release date and what does that mean? Like, what would change?
Well, the game is in open beta after a very long closed beta phase, so we are pretty glad to have more players and try all the network issues and make sure that we've got a stable connectivity for everyone to have fun. We are considering release later on this year, provided everything is going fine. And we'll be on PC. The game is currently available on Gameforge.com and Steam, and later we'll try to get the game on PS4 as well.
People can play it now already.
Yep, they can.
But people will play it on release. So what changes on release day?
Well, the commercial release is essentially going to be a lot of things are going to be polished. Right now there might be some balancing issue, there might be some bugs, there might be some connectivity trouble, and that's why we want people to keep in mind that this is a real beta. We are not there just as sake for saying, hey, you can play our game, but hey, it's in beta. It's actually in beta as in being developed actively, and the feedback of the community is really, really important for us and for Robot Entertainment, because we are changing a lot of things in the game based on what the community is saying. So when we'll feel comfortable, when we feel that the content is enough, when we feel that the game is polished enough, then we'll go in commercial release and say, well, from now on, if you're not happy with the game, that's on us.
Yes.
But in the meantime, if you're not happy with the game, just tell us and we'll fix that for you, or we'll discuss that at least. Yeah,
so with it being in development now, and it being the manner of game it is, I imagine you'll be still producing stuff after release, like new heroes, new skins, so what sort of stuff would you
Exactly, there will be a lot of new content coming in the game, sometimes in small batches, sometimes in big themed updates, but you can expect new characters, new maps, new traps, new minions, and maybe a few surprises on the way.
Okay. So with new things coming out, what sort of characters are in development that you could tell us about and that sort of stuff?
Well, I think the long-time players who've been in the alpha and the beta already have a pretty good idea of some characters that are about to come, because we had some characters in the game earlier that we had to remove and that we've repolished. So some of them are going to come back, maybe not as the same characters that you were expecting, but really, really changed. Also, the players can see today that some of the characters have a third ability. On top of the Q and E, there's a left shift.
Yes.
And Zoe, for instance, or Oziel have those kind of abilities, so you can expect a lot of things with that, so characters with a lot more abilities. But I don't think I'm going to spoil a lot if I say that if you like bears, you're going to be happy in the next few weeks.
Is that a bear?
Anything about kobolds, maybe? Maybe a monarch?
A Monic?
A kobold king, perhaps?
Yeah, the Kobold King is still in discussion. I'm not sure he's ready to come and unleash his whip already, but we still have in mind because he was pretty popular amongst the community and we really want him to come back as well. Come, try the game, it's available for free, it's on Steam, it's on Gameforge.com, and share your feedback on the forums, on the social media, wherever you want, as long as you can see that.
Okay. Cool, so that was Orcs Must Die Unchained. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Did everybody see that bear?